Greetings, Benjamin J. from BENZTRAINZ with another in the series. Well, something completely different. As you see, what I have are 3 Marx hand cars. So, in any case, 2 weeks or so ago, something like that, a gentleman by the name of Al bought 5 magnetic lock-ons. He was really pleased with them. And he contacted me and he said that he had 3 hand cars that didn't run, and he was sending them to me free of charge just to see if I could do anything with them. So I've actually got all 3 of them running. Now, the problem with the hand car itself is the gearing. The gearing itself appears to be made out of stampings or perhaps pot metal castings. The problem with them is they're only supported on one side. They're actually mounted on a stud, very much like a rivet. And once you bend that rivet and they get loose, they no longer run true, and it just doesn't run at all. Now, the beam itself is powered off the main drive gear, and it mounts on a stud with a hole. So as the gear goes around, it powers the beam. In this case, this one is running, but the stud that powers that beam is broken completely off the gear. This one is running, but as you see, it doesn't move because the gear itself is really badly damaged, which leaves us with the red one. Now, the red one was actually in the worst condition as far as electrically. Somebody had gone in here and cut both the wires to the contactors. The beam was off, so I had to rewire the contactors and, of course, then retime the beam. But as you see, this is actually running fairly well. So, in my opinion, these things are extremely fragile. As long as they're running well, no problem. If you drop this thing on the floor, or if it tumbles off the table, I can guarantee you it is not going to run again. These things are fragile in the extreme, just by the way they've mounted the gearing. The gearing is only supported on one side. It's mounted basically on a rivet. Once that rivet gets loose, the gearing no longer runs true, and you have major problems with them. So in any case, out of the 3, this one's up and running. This one runs, but the stud that actually powers the beam is broken off of the gear. This one runs, but the gear itself is no longer messing with the other drive gears, so it does absolutely nothing. It runs well, it just doesn't move. So out of the 3, this one is up and running, as you can see. Actually running quite well. Like I said, I've never seen one of these in person. Never worked on one, but I guarantee you, if one of these things tumbles off a layout table, it is not going to run again. They are extremely fragile. So this one's up and running with no problem at all. This one's running, but the stud is broken off the gear that powers the beam. This one is running, but the drive gear itself, the rivet that holds it, is just absolutely tweaked. So I don't know if it's actually worthwhile to go to the expense of buying gearing and then completely gutting these motors and trying to reinstall a new gear. Anyway, they take micro brushes, little tiny brushes about the diameter of a pencil lead. So in any case, I doubt if I'll be doing anything with these. The red one, on the other hand, is actually running quite well, as you see. Now, none of these ran, of course. So a bit of lubrication, had to rewire this one, get that beam timed on that output gear. Because what happens if it's out of time, or if that beam gets jammed, it just tweaks that gear, majorly tweaks it. But in any case, this is up and running, so it was a fun half hour. That's about what it took to get all of them running. So the red one is up and running with absolutely no problem at all. This one runs actually quite well. The beam just doesn't move, as you see. And of course, this one runs, but the output gear isn't meshing with the drive gears because the rivet itself is just majorly tweaked. So anyway, it's really difficult to work on them simply because they're so small. And like I said, I have never worked on these things, never even seen one in person. But after looking at these, I would never, ever buy one of them. Anyway, I just wanted to do a quick video on this. Wanted to thank Al for sending them, first of all. So all three of them are running. This one is missing the stud on the gear that powers the beam. This one, the main drive gear itself, is tweaked. This one, on the other hand, is up and running, actually quite well, as you see. So, in any case, I just want to do a quick video on these Marx hand cars. They're interesting, no doubt. But again, I would never buy one of these things. I mean, they are fragile. And like I said, if something happens to this beam and you jam it, tweak it, drop it, it's going to damage the gearing. This is that rod, that operating rod, is connected directly to the output gear. And it's just a stud sticking out the side of the gear. And the gear itself is only supported on one side by a rivet. So once you tweak the gear, you've tweaked the entire drive system. So it runs. The beam is just immobile. This one runs, but it just won't move because the gear is completely tweaked. And of course, the red one is actually up and running, as you see. So anyway, I wanted to do a quick video on these. Again, I wanted to thank Al for sending them. It was a fun diversion. There's no doubt about that. I've never seen one of these. It's always fun to work on a new motor. And in this case, I got this one up and running. As you see, it's actually running really well. No problem with this one at all. This one runs, so I don't know what I'm going to do with it. This one runs, but the gearing itself is shot. It just sits there. It does run, it just doesn't move. So in any case, I just wanted to do a quick video on the Marx hand cars. They got here this afternoon. I just got a chance to actually work on them. So the red one's up and running. This one runs, but the gear that powers the beam is has the stud broken off. This one, the main gear itself, is majorly tweaked. So what I'm going to do with them, I have absolutely no idea. It was a fun diversion to work on them, no doubt about that. And as you see, in this case, it paid off because that one is actually up and running really well. So anyway, I just want to do a quick video on these Marx hand cars. Fun to work on, but you have to have the patience of Job, that's for sure. Really difficult and really tight, cramped corners trying to do anything with these, as you can see. See if I can get this camera to focus that close. There you go. You can see the drive system in there. And they're all mounted, but they're only mounted on one side. So they're basically riding on a rivet. If that rivet gets loose, the gearing no longer runs true, and you have major problems. In this case, there's a stud that sticks out of the gear itself to power the beam. And in this case, that stud is broken off the gear. So it does run, the beam just doesn't work. This one, the main gearing itself, is damaged. So really not much you can do with this. It runs, it just doesn't move. That one, on the other hand, is up and running. So I just want to do a quick video on this. Lots of fun. Always fun to work on something you've never seen before, that's for sure. But in this case, like I said, it paid off. This is up and running actually quite well. So all three of them are running. This is the only one that's actually fully functional. So I just wanted to do a quick video on this. And again, I wanted to make a video and thank Al for sending them. It was a lot of fun. So as always, if you have any questions, feel free to drop me an email, BENZTRAINZ@gmail.com. And as always, thank you for watching.